So, what is it that makes American capitalism so, well, American? It's this incredibly productive, super competitive system, but it's also just full of contradictions. Today, we're going to dive into the unique DNA of this economic engine. We'll look at where it came from, why it works the way it does, and ask if its greatest strengths are maybe also its most dangerous flaws.
And right here, this quote from historian Gordon Wood, this is really the key. The big idea is that you just can't separate the American economic system from its political one. The very same ideas that fuel the democracy, opportunity for everyone, the power to challenge the establishment, those are hardwired directly into its brand of capitalism. They're two sides of the same coin.
And you can see this play out in the real world, right? Just think about what each system prioritizes. European capitalism often focuses on a collective, social purpose, things like big safety nets and high-speed rail for everyone. But American capitalism, it's built around the individual. The focus is on highways to get you where you need to go, and the person we put on a pedestal is the startup founder.
Okay, so this leads us to our first really big idea, how that revolutionary spirit of American democracy spills right over into business. And it's all about this process that economists call creative destruction.
Think about it like this. In politics, democracy lets voters throw the old guard out. Well, American capitalism does the exact same thing, but with companies and technologies. The automobile didn't ask the horse and buggy industry for permission, right? Mainframes didn't check with the punch card makers. This constant churn, this upheaval, is basically a system of economic term limits.
So, if creative destruction is the what, then how does it actually happen? Well, it's fueled by a deep cultural love of taking risks. This acceptance, even celebration, of speculation is arguably the secret sauce that powers all that innovation. This wasn't always a sure thing. Right when the country was being founded, there was this huge fight. You had Thomas Jefferson on one side looking at speculators buying up war debt from veterans for pennies on the dollar and saying, this is just wrong, it's unfair. But on the other side, Alexander Hamilton argued that, even if it looks unproductive, that speculation is the money, the capital, that a young country needs to build things. And in the end, Hamilton won that debate.
And the result of Hamilton's victory can be boiled down to this one simple, powerful idea. No speculation, no railroads. Without that willingness to bet on a future that wasn't guaranteed, the huge nation-building projects like the Transcontinental Railroad, they probably just never would have happened.
And this risk-taking culture wasn't just some vague idea. It got written right into the law. In the early 1800s, a few revolutionary things happened. General incorporation laws meant that anybody, not just the politically connected, could start a company. Getting rid of debtors' prisons meant that failing wasn't a life sentence, it was just a chance to try again. And free banking laws opened up access to capital. The crucial point here is that the power to create a business was taken away from the state and handed over to the individual.
Of course, any system that prizes risk and speed is going to have a dark side. It's so focused on the market that it can get obsessed with the short term, which opens the door to some pretty questionable ideas. And outright fraud.
And boy, American history has a whole parade of these characters. You've got the patent medicine hucksters from the 19th century, all the way up to the meme stock craziness of today. You see, the line between a visionary genius and a total fraud can be incredibly thin. For every great innovator, there's always a whole bunch of hustlers and con men right behind them.
And this isn't some new observation we've just made. Check out this quote from a London newspaper all the way back in 1884. It shows how the rest of the world has seen America's appetite for high-stakes gambling for a long, long time. The thinking is that where someone from Europe might be scared of losing what they have, the American sees a chance to multiply it. It's a trait that both built the country and has led to some pretty epic crashes.
Now, we have to talk about a really critical, really complex part of this whole story, the role of slavery. There's a revisionist school of thought that argues slavery was the original blueprint for American capitalism. But the source material we're looking at here argues for the exact opposite conclusion.
And the argument really hinges on this comparison right here. The economy in the North, with all its problems, was dynamic. It was built around innovation and opportunity. The South, on the other hand, was a rigid, layered society that actually fought against development. Its leaders didn't want widespread education. They didn't want innovation. It was a lot like a modern oil sheikdom. So in this view, slavery wasn't the engine of American capitalism, it was its total opposite.
To back this up, the source poses two really sharp questions for us to think about. First, If slavery was the secret to getting rich, why didn't other slave societies like Brazil or Cuba become economic superpowers? And second, why did America's most incredible period of growth happen after the Civil War, after slavery was abolished? It's a direct challenge to the idea that slavery was the foundation of the system.
So all of this brings us to what might be the system's most stubborn, most challenging weakness, the problem of inequality. It's a tension that's been there since the Gilded Age, and it is absolutely front and center today.
I mean, you can really see the story of the last few decades in this one simple chart. Back in 1979, the top 1% of earners took home about 10% of all the income in the country. Today, that share has more than doubled to over 20%. It's pretty clear proof that the rewards in the economy have become way more skewed toward the top.
But, and this is a really big but, here's the other side of that coin. For all its inequality, the American system creates an absolutely staggering amount of wealth. Just look at this number, 84%. That's how much higher the income is per person in the US compared to Europe. It's a shocking figure that means, on average, the economic pie is just a whole lot bigger here.
However, and you knew this was coming, right? That giant pie is not sliced up evenly, not even close. An American at the 10th percentile for income makes just $19,000 a year. Now, in Europe that number might be lower, but poverty there is often softened by a much stronger safety net of social goods. The simple fact is, the system just doesn't produce very good results for the people at the bottom.
So with these deep flaws, what is the system's enduring strength? What's the big selling point? In a single word, opportunity. This system is still uniquely designed to empower the entrepreneur.
And if you want proof, just look at this number, 5.5 million. That's how many new business applications were filed in the US last year alone. That is a stunning display of the raw dynamism and ambition that still fuels this economy. For all its faults, it's a system that still calls on millions of people to try and build something new.
And when you put it all in a global context like this, the American model becomes even more clear. In Europe, the goal is often social purpose, and the rules are there to protect workers. In China, the state is in control of everything. But the American model is different. The main driver is individual capital, and the government is, at least in theory, supposed to play a limited role. The whole thing is built on the idea that business is a vehicle for the individual. And so this is where we land. We're left with the central question, the fundamental tension of the entire system. Its greatest, most distinguishing strength is opportunity. It pulls in talent from all over the world, and it unleashes incredible innovation. But is the price we pay for all of that opportunity a persistent, maybe even permanent gap between the rich and the poor? That is the system's ultimate challenge.